Did Artemi Panarin and the New York Rangers just end the Pittsburgh Penguins?
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1027 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers go into Pittsburgh, and in a game that was quite a bit different from the first matchup between these teams in this building earlier this season. That game, of course, they won 1-0 on the back of a shutout by Jonathan Quick. This time, 11 goals scored. The Rangers win this one 7-4, outlast the Penguins in what basically turned into a track meet. And the big story of this game to me was Jonathan Quick. We're going to talk about him a little bit later in this episode for sure. You just look at the box score and you think, well, he probably didn't have his best stuff. No, Jonathan Quick was awesome in this game. And the Rangers, obviously, very opportunistic. A lot of the star players were really out in full force for the Rangers. So that was great to see as well. We're going to talk about the performance of some of those players. And I want to start this episode by talking about the point in this game where it really kind of felt like the game was over. And first of all, for the everydayers, you guys know I'm always that person. I never think that a game is ever really, truly 100% over, or a playoff series is ever really over, no matter what the series score might be or anything along those lines. It felt to me, though, when you had that sequence in the second period where it went from a 3-3 tie to the Rangers being up 5-3, thanks to a couple of power play goals, it felt at that point that the Rangers were really on their way to a win. Now, obviously, that wasn't, they did win, but, there was a little bit more of a push than maybe I was expecting from the Penguins in the third period. And like I said, Quick was phenomenal while that was happening, allowing the Rangers to preserve their lead, ultimately win this game by 3 goals. But I did want to highlight this sequence in the second period here because, again, this is when the Rangers, it felt like they really took control of this game. And it's also hopefully the moment that they kind of snap out of their power play funk. Their power play hasn't been like dreadful, but it certainly hasn't been good. The last handful of games, I want to say they were like 11 for their last 66, somewhere in that ballpark. But again, to kind of set the stage for you guys here, this is when the score was 3-3 in the second period. And the Penguins actually had a decent rush up the ice, and it looked like Crosby was going to get an opportunity on the doorstep. And you got to give some credit to Ryan Lindgren here on the back check, really hustling to get back and staying with Crosby, and a nice job deflecting a pass away from Crosby. So if that puck gets over to Crosby, he might score, and the Penguins might take the lead at that point. But not too long after this, a really nice play by Johnny Brodzinski. He had a tough game the other night. He caught a lot of the blame from Ranger fans, and not even like undeservedly so. He had a rough game. It happens from time to time, and against the Lightning, a couple of costly turnovers, especially the one where Tampa stole it from Brodzinski, got the scoring chance, cut the Raider lead to 2-1, and of course Tampa was on their way back to come from behind win against the Rangers. But in this case, Johnny Brodzinski's got the puck. He takes a shot that gets blocked, and then he picks it back up and tries to get toward the net, and he is pulled down, I want to say, by Carter at this point. So a nice job by Brodzinski drawing a penalty there. And the Raiders actually had the puck for 45 seconds here. There was a very long delayed penalty. Cooley ended up with a backhand shot. The save was made. But, of course, the Rangers go on the power play. And you've got the Rangers winning a faceoff. The shot is taken, I believe, by Fox. Save was made, but the puck was loose. And Panarin got there and was able to stuff it home. And on further review here, I didn't really notice this during the live play, but it was actually Kreider, and he got the primary assist here. Kreider got the puck over to Panarin. So the initial shot by Fox from the blue line, save made. Kreider's got 2 Penguin defenders all over him. He doesn't care because he's, for my money, once again, the best net front presence in hockey. He fights his way off of these guys, gets to the puck, and then kind of slides it over across the top of the crease to a little spot of empty ice there where I think he was looking for Panarin to get to, and Panarin got there. And you're watching this play live, and you're thinking, get there. Because if Panarin can get to the puck, he's going to knock it in, and that's exactly what happened. 4-3 in favor of the Rangers. And then you get a situation where Letang takes a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and he goes to the penalty box, and the Rangers, once again, back on the power play, and they win a faceoff. Kreider has a deflection attempt that goes wide, and then the Penguins actually had a shorthanded chance, but another really nice save by Jonathan Quick there. I mean, this game was kind of a track meet. Both teams had multiple chances to score while shorthanded in this game, but in this case, Jonathan Quick makes a really nice save, and then just some disgusting passing by the Rangers. You've got Mika Zibanejad up the center of the ice. He gains the blue line, dishes to his left to Panarin. Panarin's kind of close to the boards. He passes all the way across the ice to the right side to Kreider. Kreider back in front to Mika Zibanejad, and Mika slams it home, and it's 5-3 Rangers at that point. And all those passes I just mentioned, I mean, it was like boom, 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 one after the next, just lightning quick passes, and the Rangers extending their lead to 5-3 at that point. And again, this is when it felt to me like the game was over. And of course, the Penguins did get a little bit of a push, certainly at the start of the third period. Toward the end, the Rangers got up 6-3. They knocked it down to 6-4, and they had a couple more chances. But watching this game, again, I'm the person that, I never think that a game is over, but this just felt like a truly back-breaking sequence for the Penguins because, again, it wasn't long ago that the Penguins had tied the game at 3-3, and obviously, they're right back in it, and to see the Rangers score two consecutive power play goals, one right after the other, I thought that was really impressive for the Rangers, and again, just kind of a crippling moment for the Penguins because this is a back-and-forth game up to that point. And the other reason I kind of felt like the game was over when this happened, Rangers are up 5-3. It's one of those games, the stars are out for the Rangers. Panarin's firing on all cylinders. Kreider's feeling it. Mika, he had scored on the power play as well. It just felt like, and certainly the Penguins were not defending well, and it just felt like the Rangers were not done. So they're up 5-3. Penguins have to try to come back from that, but it felt like the Rangers had at least a few more goals in them. They continued to apply tremendous pressure for the rest of the second period. We're not able to build on their lead at that time, but obviously a couple of goals in the third period. And to me at this point, it just felt like, for the Penguins, it was going to be a really daunting task trying to come back from this deficit at this point, especially when you consider the way that it happened, the way that the Rangers turned that 3-3 tie into a 5-3 lead. And the other thing we got to mention here, and I in a roundabout way, I already have, but the shift that follows a goal. We know this has been a big problem for the Rangers this entire season. It was nice to see them excel in that area of the game. Obviously, right here, this sequence that we just talked about, the two power play goals scoring one after the other, but it also happened twice early in this game because the Rangers got a game-tying goal from Kaapo Kakko in the first period. This is only 31 seconds after the Penguins had made it 1-0. So a really nice job by the Rangers responding there. Got to give a big shout out to Alex Wenberg. He really made this whole thing happen. That guy forechecks like a maniac and, kind of an unheralded player. But the more I watch him, and Roslovic too, it does feel like they fit in with the Rangers and they are good players and they are going to contribute to this team going forward. But Wenberg went in really aggressive on the forecheck, steals the puck, gets it in front to Vesey. Vesey, a really fast pass across the top of the crease to Kakko. Kakko's there on the other side. He buries it, ties the score at 1-1. And again, this happening just 31 seconds after the Penguins took the lead. And then just 26 seconds after this, Adam Fox scores on a drive to the net, an impressive drive to the net, and an even more impressive finish. Couple of moves on the doorstep, gets it to his backhand, roofs it 2-1 in favor of the Rangers. And obviously, and I'm not the only one, a lot of us have gotten on the Rangers for some of their lackluster play in the shift that follows a goal. Nice to see it go the other way for once. Nice to see the Rangers razor sharp. Not only are they not giving up goals or giving up scoring chances, but they themselves razor sharp in the shift that follows a goal. You love to see it. And look, I mean, I've talked about this in the past. That has been a weakness for the Rangers. It's one of those things, though, you can turn it from a weakness into a strength, I think, with just a little bit more focus and understanding that this is go time. It's not time to take a break. It's time to put the pedal to the metal more than ever. And hopefully it's a point of emphasis from the coaching staff and something that we see more of down the stretch and then certainly in the playoffs as well. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to shift our attention to the Rangers stars showing up in a big way in this game. couple of other things as well. Certainly, we're going to talk about quick a little bit, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, we definitely would like to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. You should not have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices, show your total up front so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Also want to let everybody know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. I want to shift our attention to the Rangers' star players and how they showed up in a big way in this game. You know, cliche or not, there's a lot of truth to what I'm about to say here, and I'm not the first person to say this, and I certainly will not be the last. But, you know, come playoff time and everything the Rangers are doing now, I think it is with at least one eye looking ahead toward the playoffs. I mean, you still got to play well down the stretch here, and you don't want to sleep on these games, in the home stretch of the season or anything. But the Rangers are going to the playoffs. We know that. And obviously, there's a lot of things that you want to be working well come playoff time. And again, cliche or not, your best players have to be your best players when it matters the most. That's something that I don't think was the case at all during the Rangers, very brief appearance in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. I mean, the first 2 games, sure, everything pretty much fell apart after that, though. That 7-game series against the Devils, but we don't need to talk about that any further on today's episode. Bottom line, we're getting closer to the playoffs, and you've got Panarin, you've got Kreider, you got Mika playing very well. They combined for 9 points. Artemi Panarin with 2 goals and 3 assists. Kreider ends up with a goal and 2 assists. And Mika, once again, rocking that full face shield with a goal in this game. Just a passing clinic by the Rangers in this game. We described a couple of the goals already. All 3 of these guys are making really nice passes throughout the entire afternoon in Pittsburgh. In many cases, leading to goals. In other cases, at least leading to good scoring opportunities for the Rangers. Panarin, he's going to have to settle for a measly 2 goals and 3 assists because he missed the hat trick. He had the chance to, and he only missed by like a couple of inches, but the Rangers were up by 2 goals, 6-4 late in this game. Penguins had pulled their goalie, and Panarin shot it down the ice and missed the far side of the post by, again, couldn't have been more than like 3 or 4 inches at the absolute most. And he was kind of laughing about it after it happened. He ended up getting an assist on the empty netter by Kreider. So all's well that ends well. And I'm sure Panarin's happy to end up with 2 goals and 3 assists in this game. But he was all over the ice. It wasn't even just the points. He had a couple of, really nice keep-ins for the Rangers during a couple of instances where it looked like the Penguins were going to be able to clear the puck out of their zone. There were at least 2 instances in this game where Artemi Panarin did not allow that to happen. And he was involved in a lot of, lengthy offensive zone possessions. Again, some of these led to goals. Some of them did not. But regardless, Panarin just playing well every time he was on the ice. And, just having an amazing season. There's really not much else I can say. I'm running out of adjectives to describe the kind of season that Artemi Panarin is having for the Rangers. And we already discussed, Panarin's second goal. Want to kind of break down his first one as well. Really nice play by K'Andre Miller here. He gets the puck up the ice very quickly from around the Ranger blue line to Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck goes in up the left side. There's a Penguin defender down on the ice, on his stomach, sliding across the ice. And Trocheck's kind of delaying. And then just a beautiful saucer pass. He lifts it right over like the lower back area of the Penguin who is down on the ice. And Panarin's there. Panarin crashed the net. And as soon as you saw Trocheck able to lift this puck, you knew it was a goal. I mean, Panarin's not going to waste this unbelievable pass from his teammate. He's not going to miss a tap-in goal from, a foot or two away from the net. It's a goal. It goes in, and that gives the Rangers a 3-2 lead at that point in the game. Also of note, they mentioned this on the broadcast, that's now 4 90-point seasons for Artemi Panarin as a member of the New York Rangers. Messier and Rattel each had 3, but Panarin now stands alone for the Rangers in that stat. And his second goal in this game was great as well. We already covered that one from a little bit earlier, but just good stuff from Panarin. Very good game for Chris Kreider as well. As we talked about earlier, he had the primary assist on each of the 2 goals that turned the 3-3 tie into a 5-3 lead for the Rangers. He also, sealed the game with an empty netter. The Penguins did score a power play goal, but they were only 1 for 3 on the power play. And obviously, Kreider's got a hand in that as well. And, again, the Ranger power play had been in a funk, and Kreider, one of the guys seemingly kind of leading the charge on the Ranger power play and hopefully getting them out of that. So, we'll see how the Ranger power play fares tomorrow against the Devils. But again, just a solid game all around from Chris Kreider. And another very encouraging aspect of this game, just kind of in general, is I think it's a very good reminder that this is a Ranger team that can beat you in a lot of different ways. We've seen them win games, in so many ways. There's games where maybe the goalie carries them. There's high scoring games like this. There's low scoring games. There's games where the Rangers, that their power play really comes through. There's other games where, they win in overtime. They win in the shootout. I mean, I guess that kind of goes without saying when you win as many games as the Rangers have won this year, where, you win that many games, there's obviously going to happen in a couple of different ways. Be that as it may, I just love the fact that the Rangers, in their last win before this, they beat the Canes on the road by a score of 1-0. Kind of, a little bit of a stalemate early in that game, some low event hockey from time to time. Then all of a sudden that game went crazy for about 4 or 5 minutes in the third period, where there's rushes up and down the ice. But for the most part, obviously a low scoring game and kind of low event hockey as well. And the Rangers found a way to win that game. And then this game, the Rangers weren't at their best defensively, clearly. But even that being the case, they win a track meet. They go into Pittsburgh and they beat another division rival in a track meet style of a game. And I think that's important come playoff time. With the playoffs, we always tend to think of it as like, well, it's the playoffs. Everything's going to be tight and it's going to be physical and low scoring. And that's all true. But, if you're going to win 4 rounds in the playoffs, you're going to have to win a game like this at least once in a while. It's not like there's never a high scoring game in the playoffs. It's not like it never happens. So again, to know that the Rangers can go into Carolina, take down the Canes in a, kind of grind it out kind of a game, defensive game for sure. And then also followed up by winning a game where 11 goals are scored. I mean, that's awesome. That's both sides of the spectrum. And to me, it's a sign of a team that is dangerous come playoff time and a team that can beat you in a lot of different ways. So good stuff there. Also want to give the Unsung Hero Award out right now. We're going to give it to Jonathan Quick. It's one of those things, if you watch this game, certainly you don't need me to tell you that Quick was great. But I think it's one of those things, again, if you just kind of check the box score and, what happened in the NHL today? Oh, the Rangers, they beat the Penguins 7-4. Well, what was going on there? Oh, Quick must not have had his best stuff. I don't know that he gave up a soft goal the entire game. I mean, the only one you could maybe point to is the first goal that the Penguins scored. There's a shot from the point, and it kind of just got through quick and into the net. But in that case, it certainly looked like he was screened. So, look, he was under fire. There was a barrage of shots. He made some unbelievable saves in this game. He stops 34 of 38 shots. The Rangers were outshot 38-28 on the night, and that didn't matter because Quick came up big. He was really strong at the start of the third period, obviously helping the Rangers maintain their lead there. He had a sequence in this game, I want to say it was actually against Crosby, where he sort of like made 2 saves at once. Like it hit part of his, like, I think like his chest. And then he also got it with the blocker. And then there was a rebound opportunity right after that. And he kicks out his left pad, makes a save there as well on the stuff-in try by the Penguins. And the best compliment that I can pay to Jonathan Quick right now is that it's not even a surprise when he comes up with a really strong game like this anymore. You expect it. Maybe at the start of the season, I think for a lot of us, and certainly just general NHL fans, when Jonathan Quick was going out there early in the year and standing on his head and beating these very same Penguins in this very same building by a score of 1-0 and just playing phenomenal, hockey. Maybe at the time it was a surprise, but now, I mean, with the season that he's had, and of course he signed the contract extension not too long ago, it's not even close to being a surprise when Jonathan Quick plays like this. So again, that's the best compliment that I think I can give to him at this moment. But we're keep everything rolling in just a second. We want to turn our attention to, we're basically going to debate if the Rangers essentially just ended the Penguins. And I'm also going to get into a couple of other things as well. We will do all that fun stuff in just a second. First, though, we definitely would like to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. And a question that I posed at the start of this episode, the very first thing I said, in fact, did the Rangers just basically end the Pittsburgh Penguins? And this isn't even just this year that I'm talking about. We can go back 2 years ago. Obviously, the Rangers and Penguins had that epic 7-game playoff series. The Penguins, they get up 3-1. They have a 2-goal lead in Game 5. Rangers come back and win. They have a 2-goal lead in Game 6. Rangers come back and win. They're up by a goal with 5 minutes to go in Game 7. The Rangers tie it. Panarin wins it in overtime. Just an absolute dagger of a situation. I mean, imagine the Rangers losing to the Penguins in that fashion. That's absolutely devastating, especially when you consider the rivalry between these teams. And I have to propose the question, did the Rangers, was that the last time that we see the Penguins in the playoffs during the Sidney Crosby era? I know that would break everybody's heart. Every Ranger fan would just be devastated if that was to be the case. I feel like they eventually will get back because they're going to continue to try to build around, that core free group of players there that, won those Stanley Cups with them and try to do right by those guys. So I get the feeling we could see them eke into the playoffs. We might even get another Ranger Penguin playoff series before the Crosby era is all said and done. But when you look at what's going on in the Eastern Conference right now, this loss was potentially a big-time backbreaker for the Penguins because the Penguins, they came out flying in this game. They had their legs, some good scoring chances early. They scored early to take the 1-0 lead. Apparently, before this game, Sullivan was hyping them up and telling them, you're only a couple of points out of a playoff spot. And that sort of is still the case. But when you look around the NHL at the scoreboard right now, Detroit won today. They'd been really struggling, and that's another team that the Penguins have to try to chase down. The Red Wings won. The Islanders also lost in overtime. They're hanging on to one of the wild card spots, so that gets them a point. And the Penguins are losing ground. They're now 7 points out of the playoffs, are the Penguins. So it's not impossible, but they have only 16 games left to jump past 5 teams. That's going to be very, very difficult to pull off. And like I said, this is a devastating loss for the Penguins. There was a stat. They showed it during the game today. Penguins only have a 4% chance of making the playoffs, so I got to imagine that went down. I mean, I don't really believe in those percentages anyway, because I don't even understand how you really calculate that. We'll see. But, I think from the Ranger perspective, it's obviously awesome because, you beat the Penguins in any fashion. It's always very enjoyable. This is such a heated, intense, nasty rivalry. We saw some extracurriculars in this game for sure. But I think it's a good situation. I mentioned this not too long ago. I think it's a good situation for the Rangers that they're in right now, where they're playing some teams that are basically desperate, not just today against the Penguins, but also tomorrow against the New Jersey Devils. Both these teams on the outside of the playoffs looking in, I think both these teams, certainly the Devils, fancied themselves not just as, playoff teams, but as potential Stanley Cup contenders, and it has not gone well for either team. And again, it's a good test for the Rangers because you're up against teams that really, really need to win these games. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit here to make the point, but, with the Penguins and Devils, they're basically playing a Game 7 every night. And again, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but when you look at the playoff picture and how tight it is and how many teams are right in that same area of the standings, and, there's some teams in the Eastern Conference, quite a few, in fact, that have kind of separated themselves from the pack. The Rangers, Panthers, Bruins, the Canes, who's the other team in the Maple Leafs? They've got some good clearance as well. So there's only a couple of spots left for a lot of different teams, and that means that every game is huge for those teams. And again, these are essentially must-win games for both the Penguins and the Devils. They're not must-win games for the Rangers. I mean, if we're being honest, they're not. But it's nice to see that the Rangers, they didn't play perfect today. Again, the defense was a little bit leaky and a couple too many turnovers and whatnot. But even with that being the case, I still thought the Rangers competed very, very hard in this game, skated hard. They were out there battling. They kind of knew the situation they were in. And knowing they were going to be up against a desperate team, they mash or maybe even eclipse that as far as like the effort is concerned. And that's awesome to see. And hopefully they can do the same thing against the Devils in tomorrow's game. That will be happening at 1:00. We'll see how that whole thing goes. But yeah, again, a very good test around this time of the season for the Rangers, who, not officially in the playoffs, but they're going to make the playoffs. To have them going up against some of these bubble teams, I think it's going to bring out the best of them. And I think it did for the most part, at least offensively in this game today against the Penguins. One other player I want to talk about here before we call it a day is K'Andre Miller. Really nice game again for him. I gave him credit in an episode, I want to say about a week or two ago. And there were one or two people telling me, in the comment section, like, oh man, no, Miller was bad. He was a turnover machine or whatever. And at least in that game, the one game that I was talking about, I certainly did not see that. I did not. I mean, there was maybe one turnover that wasn't good. But I feel like Miller recently has played very well. The last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some of the best hockey that we've seen Miller play. And before everybody jumps on this, because there's people that are going to put this on Trouba and, oh, he's better because Trouba's not out there. It started before Trouba even got injured. So that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with it, other than maybe Miller just wanting to step up, knowing that the Rangers are down a defenseman. But he ends up with a goal and 2 assists in this game. And it feels like, lately he's playing with a little bit more edge. He was not credited with any hits in this game, but he was involved in some of the aforementioned extracurricular activities after some of these plays. There was a situation where O'Connor, I think he took an extra whack against Quick, trying to get the puck loose, and Miller basically grabbed him and wrestled him down to the ice. So he's been doing that lately. He had a game not too long ago where he was credited with 4 or 5 hits, and on at least a couple of them, he knocked his opponent down to the ice. So I know a lot of people want to see a little bit more edge out of Miller. Now, he does still seem somewhat susceptible, Miller, that is, to a blunder every now and then, the kind of mistake, the kind of a turnover that you just don't like to see. And he actually had one of those in this game. The Rangers were shorthanded, and I think he was trying to pass it up the center of the ice and just kind of miscalculated how close the Penguin was to him. And the pass was intercepted. Immediate slap shot for the Penguins, and Quick was able to fight it off. So Quick kind of bailed him out there. I feel like with Miller, the thing that's I guess a little bit, worrisome, or whatever word you want to use, because a lot of people point to oh, he's not physical enough. I don't think that's really true. I think Miller, could he be a little bit more physical? Probably, but I don't think softness or a lack of physicality is something that plagues this guy. I think if there's anything that to be worried about, is that he does seem to have, one of those like bad turnovers, or just a mental lapse every once in a while. Every now and again, it doesn't happen super often, but to me, that's the thing that kind of plays up a little bit in the playoffs. You can't have bad turnovers or crucial mistakes in big spots. That, to me, if there's anything to be worried about with Miller, it might be that. But again, I feel like he's played very well recently, played very well in this one. The Penguins, they got off to the 1-0 lead. It could have very easily been a 2-0 lead, but Miller made a fantastic play in the first 30 seconds of this game. Penguins get a 2-on-1 rush. Crosby's got the puck. He's going toward the net. Miller goes down to his stomach to try to, obviously defend, and he's able to reach out with his stick. He's got, such a reach, and he knocks the puck away from Crosby to break up that scoring opportunity. So Miller, again, playing a whale of a game. He also made a really nice play to set up the go-ahead goal for the Rangers. We already covered that when, we were talking about Panarin a little bit earlier. He had a goal himself, just kind of shot it through traffic after receiving a pass from Lafreniere. So, yeah, I mean, Miller, another really strong game, and one of, I'd say at least a couple of different Rangers that probably playing their best hockey of the season, and not a moment too soon, because, again, we are entering the home stretch here and gearing up for playoff hockey, and, man, cannot wait to see that happen. But we can pretty much call it there. Once again, Rangers going to be back in action against the Devils tomorrow afternoon. So definitely looking forward to that and coming back here and talking about it on the next episode. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well at LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.